screen. This is the newest version, newest updated version of the Photoshop. It looks slightly different to your regular version that you might see on your screen, unless you've updated to the latest version. It has quite a few of new options. First of all, what you will see is this new screen, and the way to disable it is in preferences. So when you quick preferences, you see hide start workspace, and you can go under preferences in general, and that's going to be available right there. So let's actually start with that. Let's go to edit, preferences, general. Basically, I don't want to have that start window. I don't use it that often. I like to use the overall default window that used to be here. And you can see here, show start workspace when no documents are open. I actually gonna disable that, because what I want to do, and you'll see in a second when I press OK, and I press escape, what I want to do is double click and be able to start a new file or open a file that way. And this is what I'm gonna see as soon as I open Photoshop. Okay, so quick notes about what this is. Obviously, Photoshop is not really that hard to use. It contains a toolbar, which is right here. This little bar that you see here is a toolbar, and then everything else are windows. And there are different windows. They have all their own properties, and you can actually use them depending on how and what you do for your work. So let's jump into actually customizing this workspace to what we're gonna use for lessons. In order to customize this, you can see right here in Essentials, you see the different workspaces. We're gonna create a new workspace. We wanna create the workspace that will capture keyboard shortcuts, menus, and toolbars. And let's highlight all of those and press save. So now we have a new workspace. I'm actually gonna create one more because I forgot to name the previous one, and let's call it Learn Squared Lesson 1. There we go. So from here, what I want to do is start to pretty much shut everything down. I don't like to see that many icons on my screen. I like to have it as clean as possible, because a lot of those things either you're not going to use at all, or you're going to use it so sporadically, it's just overtaking your workspace that you might need for painting. So I don't need device preview. I can disable that. I don't need properties. I can disable that too. I'm not gonna need paths, nor colors or swatches. The reason I'm not using colors or swatches is because swatches are limiting me to specific colors that I already sort of set for myself. There's you can actually create a custom swatches right here. And customize your work palette for your artwork. I don't like to do that because almost every work I do has a different color palette and different rules to colors, and this is kind of limiting to me, so I always disable this. Also, when it comes to color tab, let's enable it again, where you can pick colors from here. I don't use that either because it's right here on your fingertips. If you just press, you can see the color picker right here is exactly same thing, exactly same functionality. We don't need that. You can actually keep it for yourself, obviously, if that's an easier way to work, where you can actually have those accessible to you right away. That's fine. I rather press it here. I know it's an extra press of a button, but it's basically I'm used to pressing those two and switching back and forth. And also, I'm doing a lot of color picking from inside the canvas that I work with, so I don't need to have my color panel or color window to be open at all times. It's actually saving me quite a lot of workspace if I close it down. I don't need libraries either, styles, or adjustments. The reason I don't need adjustments is because if you go to Layer tab, you can see that if I close it here and I just create a new file, new default file, you can see that this little icon here, it's gonna highlight as add mask, but this one is create new fill or adjustment layer, and you can create pretty much any adjustment layer that you had in that adjustment tab. The last tab that I want to move is history. I don't want to disable it because I'm gonna use it, and I'm gonna move it right here and drag it. And as soon as it highlights to a blue box, which is highlighting the whole window where I have those two tabs, I'm just gonna release my mouse button. And that way I can have a tab here. I'm actually gonna move it in the middle, so I have layers, history, and channels, because channels I only use not that many times, but I like to have it here because it's good for alpha selections and whatnot. So layers, history, and channels. And that's pretty much it. Now there's few things that I want to change in the way the workspace behaves. So let's go to Edit, Preferences, General, and let's start looking at the options that we have here. Auto update documents when they open. That's something, for instance, if you're painting inside and you're using the same file in two different programs and you update that file in a different program, it will automatically update in Photoshop. I don't want to have it here. I don't want to have this show start workspace. I don't want to show recent files either. Export to clipboard can stay. All the rest of the things can stay. Interface, I like to work with the darkest color scheme like this. You can actually go to the light one, which is very similar to what the Photoshop was a couple of years ago. I prefer darker because it's easier for my eyes when I work, especially when I work at night. Workspace, I don't like to start in tabs. I don't like generally working in tabs. I like to be able to move my windows freely around. So I don't open in tabs, nor will I dock the floating documents. So anytime, let's keep it that way for now. So let's say I have my window right here and I open the new one and I have it right here. If I move it around, it will start docking like this. And I don't really want that, because sometimes accidentally you're gonna dock and you're gonna be trying to find where this document was. I like to have a freedom to move around those documents. So let's go back to Preferences. We were at Workspace, so disable that. Tools, I like to zoom, resizes windows. I like to have that on. So let's press OK. And Control minus and Control plus will zoom and resize the window. If we don't have that option on, so let's go back into Workspace again, Tools. We actually want to use zoom with scroll wheel as well. I'm gonna have it on. But if you don't have that option, and let's press OK, you see that the window size remains the same, but the canvas is changing. And I don't really like that, because what happens is that if you have a couple of files open, they're gonna be behind this window and it's gonna be difficult for me to find them before I start moving this file. So let's go back to Edit, Preferences, Tools, and let's have that option on. History log, we don't need that. File handling, automatically save recovery information I like to have it every 5 minutes, just in case. It's a great option that's been added in Photoshop CC, the ability to save your images, auto-save your images. So in a situation when it crashes, you can actually recover it from the autosave. It's not working at all times. Sometimes the crash will corrupt the working file and you're not going to be able to recover that file. So rule of thumb, save your files a lot. Export settings, performance. I'm not touching anything in performance settings. It's by default, it works pretty well. You don't want to let your Photoshop use more than 70% of your memory. It can actually slow down your system. Only thing I'm gonna change is history states. I like to have a lot of them, so I'll put like 90. It might slow down your performance depending on how fast your machine is and what kind of GPU processor you're using. Right here I have GTX Titan Z, which is really powerful GPU, and it allows me to have all of that stuff here. So let's go back here. Scratch disk. Scratch disk is basically where the files, the working files are saved, which will directly affect performance of your autosaves. So it's good to have, like right now I have it on my C drive, which is the Windows drive, the drive that I have Windows on, and I like to keep it there because it's an SSD drive which has a fast write and read. Cursor, I'm not changing anything here. We can keep the transparency units. All of that, it looks good to me. I'm not gonna change any of those options. Everything else can remain default. There's obviously a lot of different things that you can change and automate. I'm not doing any of those because it's not really affecting the way I work. And when I press OK, now everything that we've changed in the behavior of the window is saved. So when we close Photoshop and open it up, it will look exactly as this from now on.